Hey, welcome to Roaming Minds. I'm Carlos.
I'm AJ, and here we talk about the thoughts that kept us out of all the really good schools. You know, those quiet spirals, the questions that keep you up at night, and the trials and tribulations that we all face as human beings.
This show is part reflection, part reminder. We're not broken, we're on a journey of growth. Please note that this conversation should not be taken as medical or professional advice. See the link in the description below if you require immediate help.
Every week, we unpack what it means to choose joy. Not the loud version that Karen is peddling, but the quiet, hard-earned kind that comes from finally feeling like yourself again.
Let's keep this conversation going. Join us on Discord or connect to a peer through Kindred. Let's get into it.
What happens when we are only able to be intimate with a machine? I think ultimately, and maybe it's not just, maybe that's extreme, and maybe it's just, what does it mean to be spending more intimate times with a machine? And when I say intimate, I'm not talking sexual. I am only talking communication and connection wise.
Oh, well, there is. Never mind. We're not going. Yeah. No.
Right. We go down some tricky slips real quick. Um, but why? I don't, maybe it's not a matter of why it matters, because I think we know why it matters, or at least I hope that would be kind of obvious. When you are just talking to a machine and not another human, like, A, does that satisfy human connection? I don't know. But then also, why the fuck are they so goddamn appealing?
I mean, I
Right?
think I think it answers the question because it answers human what's it called the human need for contact, and it's the second one answers the first question you just asked. I think.
Okay. Maybe. I'm not I'm not saying you're inaccurate, but if I can do that with a machine, then why can't I do that with a human?
That's a different question, though.
Is it?
To
Are
be
they
it
not
is,
related?
they're related, but I think it's a different question because if you have a need and something can provide that need, I think that's the first part. Whether it's machine or human, like you have a need and there's something that's able to provide that. That's one question. Why not be able to then have that same connection with another human? I think is a different question. I think to me those are two separate level. I can see how they could be interrelated, but to me it's if I have a need and there are two things that there are things in the world that can fulfill it, and I choose one of them, my needs are met. Why am I choosing that one over the other? I think answers another different question that's more of a other personal, or there's something else going there that needs to be evaluated.
I think you got super heavy, super quick. And I'm not telling you that it's wrong at all, but I question whether there aren't some more number one, biological appeals that are going on. I also think that there's this really interesting idea of trusting machines. And like, why do we place so much trust in them? Because we really do. It's crazy how much trust people will put into these chatbots.
I mean, yeah.
Again, why can you not do that with another human being? And don't tell me it's because nobody else likes me. Like, I get that some people do have physical challenges
Yeah.
connecting with another human being, But then what separates those two? If I'm having trouble connecting with a human, but I can communicate with a machine, what piece in there allows me to trust a machine that was developed by humans, that is overseen by humans, as opposed to the person standing right in front of me?
The first thing that came to my mind is control. You have a sense of control over the machine. You even like even though it's not quite accurate that you have quite control over it, there's a semblance of control over it that one feels toward it. Where with the human, you don't really have a control. And the other thing is, I think as a society, we've been ingrained to believe what technology tells us, and and vice versa, we've been ingrained to not necessarily trust humans with whatever they say to us. If you were to Google something, if you were asking somebody a question, and and you Google it, sometimes even if a person tells you the exact thing that Google will tell you, you had to Google it because you have some kind of inherent trust that Google or whatever search engine or AI or whatever you're using is intrinsically more right or more correct than the human being.
I will take that. Then I'm going to ask a few follow-up questions. Well, maybe not questions, but I'm going to make a few statements. I think that what you're talking about and what is really, really interesting, lack of trust in humans is a learned behavior, right? I've never met a young child. I mean, young child. And maybe that's not entirely true. Little kids pick up on vibes and whatever else, and they might not go to people. But for the most part, they're not picky about who they talk to or who they get praise from. That's almost blanket across the board. I say almost with the understanding that, yes, there exist outliers, there exist other things. But as a whole, based off of what I have observed in younger children throughout my lifetime, I've never seen a child that just inherently distrusts other human beings.
Yes.
And so that would then indicate that trust or mistrust in humans is a learned behavior from somewhere. Most likely, it probably starts at home somewhere.
Well,
Go for it. What are you going to?
no, I was gonna say it's learned from, and in a weird way from, I was gonna say experience, because
Mhm.
you you might watch your father tell a little white lie because you were there. I don't know, at the grocery store, and got a candy bar. You went home with mom. But I didn't get candy bar. So there are these experiences, not necessarily things that you pick up on. And then obviously there are the big things, we may not get, I'm not going to get into, but that when other adults or grown people harm a child and vice versa, and other things that then then those experiences then start building the experience of, oh, maybe not everybody I know is good or right. So you start building that experience of the mistrust.
Right. And I understand that it is going to be along a spectrum and there are varying degrees of everything. But I think the one thing that I really wanted to get to and that I really wanted to point out is trauma. If we suffer from that level of intimacy with another human being, trauma occurs. And then it builds up. And again, depending on what you were talking about, adults can do some fucked up things to kids. Depending on what that severity is, that trauma then occurs. And I think that we've seen an increase in trauma amongst younger generations. I think that younger generations just have it that much more difficult because of what a little bit about what we talked about last week with distractions and things like that. So while the younger generations are growing up with technology for the first time and lots of new unfounded, unfettered access to information, the adults that are currently around them have never worked as much. They have never had access to distraction on the level that they have. I think that we see what we are really seeing is the rise of individual human trauma. Why do we trust the machine? Because the machine has not traumatized us in any single fucking way prior. Not everybody, because there are those few occurrences. We saw this with auto driving and autopilot with Tesla. Tesla autopilot crashes and people are like, oh my God, what the fuck? But you look at the data, there's a whole lot less autopilot crashes than there are crashes by human beings. And
Sure.
I think that that's, again, that testament to how much we trust it, because people are outraged. They're like, I'm never getting inside of a Tesla again. You go from zero to trauma almost instantaneously. I don't know if you remember, we talked about there's the study that showed new neural pathways developed immediately inside of fish when
It's the
when they
danger.
scared the when they scared them. There we go.
Yeah,
That's what it was. Literally, new pathways formed immediately. That's a big deal. That's a super huge deal. And so when we're thinking about things like that and engaging with technology and dealing with all of those traumatic experiences, that's going to be happening. We've seen mass amounts of rises in cortisol levels amongst human beings. So what is that telling us? Okay, well, if more people are experiencing cortisol release, that means that more people are existing inside of that fight or flight mode. They are residing inside of that amygdala area, and that is what is constantly dominating everything and sending signals out to your body. And so if you are constantly wired for anxiety and fear, talking to something that is predictable and that you know with a probably like 90, I'm just throwing out numbers, this is not factual at all, but 96% chance that I'm not going to have anything happen to me, why wouldn't I talk to the machine? I can't believe it took us 13 minutes to get to that. But I do think I do think that is what I think it's a good starting point to try and figure out exactly what is going on with these kinds of things. We pulled up the one stat that says one of the surveys found that 55% of Americans 18 to 29 would be comfortable talking about mental health concerns with an AI chatbot. Well, okay, that makes total sense because they've all grown up with technology. So why wouldn't they? But what I want the flip side. How many of them are okay talking to a human therapist? Is there a difference, and is there that discrepancy? Uh, we can't just look at it from that one standpoint.
because was the survey just one question that said, "Are you comfortable with talking to an AI
Mm-hmm.
box?" Or
Right.
was the question, "Would you rather talk to a human therapist or an AI box?" Because those two different questions measure two different things, and the answer to those two things also can vary differently. Because just because I said I am comfortable talking to an AI chat box doesn't necessarily mean I will choose it over a human therapist or a person to talk to.
Right. And I I really do think that it matters because you have a generation that is effectively like walking around, maybe not the whole generation, but a pretty significant amount, almost 40%, are walking around in a constant state of heightened anxiety. It's a fudge ton of people. And so then what does that tell you? If I'm constantly walking around in a heightened state of anxiety and I'm constantly in a heightened state of fear, there's one thing that screams out in my mind when I think about that. People don't feel safe. That's ultimately what it is. And that makes sense in a trauma response situation, because if you don't have a safe space to be able to process those emotions and to be able to process out all of those things, then what are we going to turn to? How is that going to unfold? And one of the big things that I think about is, well, I'm going to go to a place that is safe. Because if you want to get technical, digital space is still a part of our space. And provided we're not getting bullied online and other things like that, then it makes sense that people are then turning to those digital spaces in order to be intimate and in order to find that safe space. However, and this is a big however, once you leave that digital space, you're no longer safe anymore. And that signal switches and you're like, oh shit, let me go back. I got to be prepared because that bear might come around the corner and try and eat me at any minute. And now I understand that it's not an actual bear, but that's effectively that process that's happening. So then I guess the question really kind of becomes, well, what do I need to do in order to get to that? In order to define a space for me that is safe enough that I can go out and process those feelings and those emotions. That kind of implies that I'm not okay with technology in all of this. And I want to, I do want to state, like, that's not the case, right? I think that you need both, right? I mean, you need a safe space that is disconnected from technology because you don't spend, I mean, even though we spend a lot of time on screens, we still spend most of our time outside of that screen, whether that be sleeping, whether that be, you know what I mean? Like, sleeping alone ideally is at least 8 hours, right?
Yes.
I would hope that you're not on a screen for 10, 12 hours a day, but I've done it. So it is a thing, but I think overall I'm pretty good about getting away from the screen for at least a little bit.
I think the question is really hard to answer. How do you carve that space? Because going back a little bit to the trauma thing and why somebody may prefer, typically when kids are traumatized, they usually have an inanimate object, a doll or something that they fix it on because they know the doll is never going to hurt me. The doll is
Hmm.
not going to leave me. They project these things that have happened, the traumatic event that have happened. So whether it's a doll, a blanket, or some kind of other thing, they project some kind of permanent fixation on that
Hmm.
you are not going to do whatever was done to me by a human person to me. So there is some kind of comfort in it. And it is really hard to get to answer the question, well, how do you create a space when you've essentially created a space for yourself to feel safe from
Hmm.
the world? So that's why I said it's a very hard question to answer.
So I'm gonna push back a little because I'm not saying it's easy, but I am gonna tell you that I think I have at least some level of insight into it because I've had to do that. I've had to create safe spaces for myself just to be able to like process when things get too crazy. I am a person where like in the thick of things, I'm not going to process. It's not going to happen. I'm going to leave. I'm going to gather all of my thoughts. I'm going to process everything out. And then we'll have a conversation in 20, 30 minutes when I can go ahead and give you the level of insight that this situation actually required, rather than just being like, this is stupid and shutting down. That's not going to do any good. So I have my spaces and I center them personally. I center them around activities and things that I am interested in. So my two big ones, actually, I do have a lot of safe spaces right now. I really have three, but one of them isn't mine. It's just one of the places that I go to. But I've built I mean, you can call it an outdoor kitchen. It's really not. It's just a fucking smoker and a fire pit that I cook in the backyard. But I'm going to refer to that as my outdoor kitchen, so leave me alone. But that's a very safe space for people can come out. We can have conversations. But if we're not having conducive conversations, please get the fuck back and leave me alone. I will tell you, and I've told anybody who steps foot, we do not argue in the greenhouse. There is no negativity inside of the greenhouse. There is only positivity because the plants need it. They're looking for that. This is their home as well. And we must maintain that space for them as much as may. And so that's been really helpful. But those are things that I invested time and energy into to go ahead and make them a me thing. Do you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yes,
I'm
but
not gonna.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah, go for it. Yeah,
Would you rather be doing those things alone or have somebody with you?
I genuinely don't care. I like cooking with people. I like having conversations while I'm doing these things. So I'm all about it. Mm, But, and again, that's the but. If you fucking with me, get the fuck up out. Peace. And I know most people are going to anyway. That's why I picked the spaces that I picked, because it gets colder. People don't want to hang out and cook outside when it's cold. I'm out there in fucking 20, 30-degree weather, dude, cooking food. I don't care. I like it. I it's genuinely something that I really, really enjoy. When it comes to gardening, I love having the extra pair of hands. I just need people to understand that this is a space that I have set up, that I have worked very, very hard to make suitable. Don't fuck with that space. Don't be it's just not, it's not conducive for myself, for you, for anybody, because and think about it maybe more this way. In those shared spaces, we have shared spaces within the house. You're constantly interacting with everybody. Chances are you are going to be interacting out of habit more so than presence. Not all the time, but think about it in terms of family. You have family interactions most of the time. Those are habitual. We talk, we pick it up, we go, oh, wow, that's kooky. I don't know if I like that. I'm not going to respond. I'm going to respond in whatever way I was programmed to in those moments. So, what we were talking about at the beginning, life experiences, people who we grew up around, those things are going to influence our habitual and automatic responses. Um, there was a guy, I don't know if you've ever listened to or watched anything by Wayne Dyer, but he was really, really interesting in terms of the work that he did. One of the big things they used to say was don't die with the tapes still inside of your head. And we do. We get pre-programmed tapes for situations all over the place. And so I guess more so we talk about safe space. Well, what is a safe space? It's really a place where you can go and act and behave in a manner with presence and not out of habit. that level of presence then allows us to go ahead and connect to the world around us, whether that be humans, whether that be plants, whether that be animals. Man, I'm not, far be it from me to take away from your jam. If your thing is fucking animals and you're like, man, my backyard needs like dogs, and that's my fucking happy place. And I go out there and I'm just completely there and present for these animals. I'm not gonna be like, that's stupid. No, come on, man. That's crazy. Would I love for people to be able to experience that alongside? Sure. But that's not everybody's gonna want to. But I think that answer there is presence and understanding us. Because if we are present, right? Fully present and paying attention and aware of what's going on, we are actively processing what is happening around us. We have more prefrontal cortex engagement. It's going to take more effort to perceive what's happening, requiring us to get out of that more amygdala centered mindset of fear and into presence and connection. Does this make sense? And I
Yes.
think that's a big thing that we miss out in human interaction. We are so programmed from the minute that we come into this world. And especially with, I know when I was growing up, like, it's not like people were teaching me to take risks. They didn't teach you how to do that. They might, especially in school, they might put up a poster on the wall and they might be like, risk is your reward, or whatever the hell, whatever motivational saying that is. But no one's sitting there and being like, well, the only way to take a risk is just to jump. But you need a space in which you feel comfortable in order to be able to do that in the first place, or it makes no difference. And I think genuinely that this has a lot to do with why we've seen that rise in people talking to chatbots, because it gives them that safe space. The problem being, the primary problem, it does not give us connection and it does not give us presence because of the fact that the screen hijacks part of your brain in order to be able to do so. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
I know I don't know how the hell we got here, truthfully, but I'm not mad about it. And I think that this really is a big, there's a lot of potential in here for solving problems with human connection. And again, I'm going to reiterate that it's going to be different for you than it is for me. The way that I go about finding that presence and that connection is going to be different. How I heal from whatever those traumas are that keep me from that are going to be different from you to me. And again, it's not that I'm not advocating. I'm not saying don't use technology. I'm not saying AI chatbots aren't going to be a part of our society. In no way, shape, or form. I'm fully convinced that at some point in time, each and every one of us will have our own AI, our own LLM to offload parts of our consciousness. I don't like the way I worded that, but it will release parts of our processing that we have to do to be able to think about other things and expand what it is that's going on around us. Digital life, because it is so inviting and attractive, it gives us a very narrow focus because, and this is just from a cognitive aspect. If I'm looking at something that is this big inside of a box, my focus is narrowed. It's not a maybe. There have been some studies that show this. I worked with my thesis advisor did one on the size of the room and um, how that impacted creative problem solving. And what they found was that the smaller the room, smaller, more confined, people would operate and derive solutions to the problem from near domain fields of study. So if I'm trying to solve a problem in biology, I'm in a small room, I'm going to come up with a solution that's probably already within biology. I'm not going to stray out and be like, oh, well, there's this really interesting idea in chemistry. Let's go ahead and see if this could be applicable here. However, on the flip side, if you're in a big, expansive room with lots of windows, there's lots of space, your mind is actually going to be open to more prospects. That's not the only study that exists on all of that. But the tenets are the same. And if we accept that room size can help in determining creative problem solving, then it would then necessarily stand to reason that if I'm looking through a screen that's this big, right, my focus is going to narrow just naturally, not because there's anything wrong, right? But that screen, no matter what size the screen is, constantly is going to constrict that narrow vision. We're getting away from all of that. We're getting into immersive experiences, but we're not. How often are you going to an immersive experience, Carlos?
0.
I've been to a couple, and I love this kind of stats. My jam. So, like I said, it's not like I'm saying this to be rid of technology. I don't think that's the case. Like I said, I love fucking tech. It doesn't matter. But we need to deal with the things that are causing us the most harm and that are being highlighted through our interactions with technology. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. The one thing I couldn't help but wonder is, are we it is I don't necessarily full-heartedly agree with the statement about to make, but are we unfairly scapegoating technology perhaps for the loneliness that people are feeling? And if technology didn't exist, will we be finding else to kind of replace that with? If my question makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I think that you are spot on. I think we not everybody, but a fair amount of humans, that's what we do. It's not our fault. It's got to be his fault. It's got to be their fault. And so it's perfectly natural to stick technology at the forefront and say, well, it's tech's problem.
Because
It's their
I was
problem.
like, because as we were having this discussion, I was like, if we were to remove the technology is gone.
Mhm.
No, we no longer have that. And let's say it's books. Would we be saying that books or reading or this is responsible? And I think the answer is probably yes.
Mhm.
So then it goes, how do we actually address this societal thing of where people prefer to be alone and doing and having that one thing that they're connected with, that not necessarily the human interaction, but like whether it's their phone, a book, I don't know, think of anything that you can. So that's what I say at
So
the earlier when we were talking. I said I think it's two different questions that are being asked. That there's a problem here, being lonely and preferring this, and the need that technology feeds in answering that if that makes sense.
yeah, I'm still gonna hold to the fact that interrelated. I think there's this
I
assumption.
think they're no, I think they're interrelated, but I think they're interrelated, but two different questions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you. I don't. I definitely don't agree with the two questions because I think one informs the other,
Is it
and so I think they're closer. Maybe my point is that they're closer
also
related
related
than what I think they are.
than what I think? Yeah.
There's right. There's this assumption there that we have to be alone in order to find this. And I don't think that's the case. And this is why I said afterwards, what it looks like for me is not going to
Yeah.
be what it looks like for somebody else.
Absolutely.
I can guarantee you that some people's safe spaces are on sports teams or on a field playing a sport. Do you know? And there is absolutely zero wrong with that. There's nothing, but that's not alone. That can
Mhm.
be. I don't know. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many people are on each team for each sport. I'm not. I'm just not going down there. It's not happening. But when you're interacting with a certain amount of people, you are connecting with them just in a different means and in a different way. My form of interacting is through communication. I'm big into having discussions and talking about the things. Not everybody likes talking about things like that. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, you need that space, whatever that is, to kind of be you and to be able to engage with yourself in that manner. Again, I'm going to come back to this idea of agency. We must take responsibility for what goes on in our lives because it is the only way to change it. This isn't a new concept. Again, uh, I think it should be fucking mandatory reading in probably high school. I think everybody should have to read Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership because taking 100% responsibility for your life is one of the only ways to achieve anything that we want. I can't achieve what I want if I'm constantly blaming other people. It doesn't work that way. And so we can't sit here and blame technology. We can't blame AI chatbots, but we can sit there and say, okay, well, this is what's missing. What's missing from humanity at this moment in time in strictly right now in America, because this is not across the board everywhere. It is. Technology is rising all over the place, but we don't have the monopoly. I'm just looking at it through this lens because that's the one that I know the most about. That agency, knowing myself. Jim Carrey, I think, put it a really, really interesting way. The depression is just me being tired of the character that I'm playing throughout this lifetime. Again, just to repeat and recap, taking that responsibility is the only way that we can get back to agency and do something about the things that are bothering us.
Yeah.
Yes, are other people assholes? Yes. Do other people make really bad decisions for the sake of their own good? Yes. All of these things are a resounding yes. Am I going to get fucking pissy and angry at it every single time? Because I'm going to tell you, the only person that's fucking up is my ass,
Yep.
not them. They have a different set of issues that they have to deal with because of that. But my peace and my sanity are the only thing that I am concerned about in that moment. So what do I need to do? And it is going to require you to kind of sit and understand you, the things that you like and whatever else. It's going to take some trial and error. That's okay. That's totally fine. Getting to that is going to be important. If you have to use an AI chatbot in the meantime to get some assistance, that's okay too. I, but the last thing that we want is dependence.
Yeah.
We do not want to be dependent upon something that I don't think it will, but could disappear. The only thing that's not going to disappear is me up until the point that I kick the bucket.
Yeah.
But while I am, yeah, no, I agree. But like while I am living, I have me. And if I can connect with me, then I can go out and I can connect with other people. I don't maybe necessarily need that AI chatbot. And so how do I do that? I find those safe spaces. I increase my level of presence in those spaces and learn how to be fully present. You look at a lot of the issues, those traumas that we talked about earlier are stemming from a severe lack of parents not being present. And I'm not blaming them. I'm not saying, oh, how dare they? They are doing the best that they can in a world that is fudging crazy right now. It's okay. We can give ourselves a break. But that also means then that it is even more so on us to come out and take responsibility and to do those things.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Carlos and I greatly appreciate it. Comment something that resonated with you today. We are here for support, feedback, or anything else that you want to share. Join us on the Kindred app, a perfect space to keep unpacking what came up during the episode. Get live, peer-to-peer support from people with shared experiences. Kindred is built for those moments that no one else sees.
Take this one step deeper by reviewing today's reflection prompt in the show notes. Please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and tune in next week for a new episode. Until next time, choose joy.